So I was saying right before I pulled up the tier list that I played a lot less games this year. Um, so 2021, I had 38 games on my list. 2022, I had 36, and this year we have 23. So it's quite a bit fewer. And the reason for that is we speedran Yoshi this year, and we went hard on that. We speedran Sammy. We had that in a marathon or two. And we played a lot of Chameleon Twist towards the beginning of the year for record time, because that was this year. So we just didn't have as much time to play as many games. So I think in 2024, I'm going to try to play more games overall and just enjoy some casual playing. And, I kind of set myself up for that. Right now, the plan for stream for next year is going to be try to improve Yoshi World Record for a little bit. Regardless of if we do it or not, eventually we're going to move on to pick a platformer list, which has 3 games in the queue right now. And once we move on to it, I'm opening the queue back up, so people will be able to request far more now that they've saved up so many channel points from speedrunning games. And then after we finally get through the list of however many it takes, we're going to go back to Chameleon Twist for a little bit and try to get sub 10. And that's all of my plans right now. After that, we'll adjust and come up with new plans. That being said, let's make a tier list. I guess I'm just going to go in the alphabetical order that it shows here, except Moss, there. Because this is Moss 1 and that's Moss 2. So we'll start with Ape Escape Pumped and Primed. This one, I played with the Architect, and we had a good time with it. It was much better than I thought it was going to be. It wasn't an Ape Escape game. It's a party game. It's not one of the original trilogy type games, and that's okay. And we went into it with that mentality that was going to be okay. That we were going to play this little game that's like a party game with Ape Escape mechanics. And going into it with that mindset, I actually pretty much enjoyed myself playing it. There wasn't anything that stood out about it, but it wasn't problematic either. Nothing about it made me dislike it, so Pumped and Prime is a terrible name for a game? Why do you say that? So overall, I think I'm going to put this one in B tier. I wrote in my notes that the story mode dragged on for quite a bit. It sounded like there was going to be oh, we've played through this world, then this world, then this world, and now we're in the final area. And then you get to what the final area feels like, and it's much longer than what you've played up to that point. And for a party game, I was definitely not expecting it to be as long as it was. Alright, next game, DK64 Randomizer, which I've put on here as its own thing. I figured it's very different from DK64. If I had played another randomizer, like Ocarina of Time or something, I'd put it as its own thing too. And I just gotta say that I adore DK64 Randomizer. I love the DK64 Randomizer. It's so good. So, if you've played DK64 before, let me see if I can... DK64 all collectible types. Sure, this is fine. There's... Yeah. So there's golden bananas, boss keys, blueprints, banana medals, crowns, Nintendo coins, or Nintendo coin, rare coin. The bean for the beanstalk is a collectible item technically. And the fairies are technically a collectible item. Oh, I'd love a picture for that. And DK64 randomizer. Oh, and your moves, like the guns and musical instruments, and just like regular moves, like uh, I don't know, Lanky Kong can orang stand, or DK gets to barrel blast. Uh, all of that gets shuffled, or can be, along with quality of life changes like only needing 40 bananas for the covered bananas for the banana medal, which would be randomized to something else, but same idea. Or all of your Kongs you can switch to on a complete quick basis. Oh, and the Kongs, I guess, are collectible too, huh? Dirt patches, the rainbow coins. Yup. Yeah, so there's just a ton of stuff to collect. Thank you for this image, Ketchup, by the way. Uh, so you collect all this stuff, and in DK64 Randomizer, it gets shuffled around. The hint system is great. It works really well to give you like paths to things and what items are way the horde and that kind of thing. I don't know. I just really love it, and it's an S tier game for me for sure. I didn't mention this yet. We will pick Game of the Year and Anti Game of the Year at the end of the tier list. Okay, Frogger. Frogger for the PS1 is awful. Everything in the game is cycle based, and none of them line up in the entire game. Uh, and then the cycles don't reset when you die, so you can't just memorize the patterns. When you die, it just continues going. And since nothing lines up, nothing's a consistent cycle, anyways, it's very hard to just react. Which is compounded by the camera is super zoomed in. So Frogger, it's on a grid system, but you can only see like 2 squares out at any given time. And all the things are moving very quickly most of the time. Uh, yeah, it's rough. And then you can't turn the camera and move at the same time. If you're turning the camera to be able to see a little bit better, you cannot move while that's happening. So you have to be in a completely safe space in order to turn the camera. And also, the world isn't locked into a grid, but you are. So sometimes things are on multiple squares at a time. Like they're just halfway between 2 squares. And that counts as being on both for them. But you can't be on both, so you just die. And finally, on top of all of that, lives are just an annoyance. Because there's not good checkpoints. And so when you die, the biggest thing is you just have to scroll slowly back down to the level that you're on to select it again. Overall, just not fun. Did not enjoy Frogger. I'm gonna put that one in D tier. Alright, Jak 2. I said this about it when I played on the first playthrough of it on stream. It felt like it was 2 games thrown into one disc. The first game is the missions outside of the city. If you just played all of the missions outside of the city, the game is like a 7 or 8 out of 10. It's very fun. I liked those parts a lot. It had some problems, but overall, pretty fun. The main issue that I had with overall, I guess, is the gun. You can't aim it. It just auto-targets stuff. So I think a lock-on feature in strafing would have been a big improvement. It's also really annoying that ammo doesn't refresh upon death. So it's a lot of grind for ammo to be able to have the ammo to be able to beat what you need to beat. But then the city. The city is drive around this town that's annoying to get across. over and over and over and over, and every mission that was in the city sucked. I couldn't. I got angry at the city stuff. So that was like a 3 out of 10 part of the game. Uh, so combine that together, and you get a 5 out of 10 average because they were about the same length. Good gameplay, enjoyable stuff. Was the same length as literally steal a car and run around and have nothing to do in the city over and over for hours. So, overall, I'm going to put that one in C tier. Next up, we got Kuko's Lost Pets. Kuko's Lost Pets was a game where there's multiple worlds, and in each world, you find one of the lost pets, and for that world, you have the power that that pet gives. So one of them gives you wings and lets you fly around. It's a 3D platformer. Another one is you're carrying a box with you. And you can't jump while you hold the box, but you can throw the box up and it becomes a platform that you can jump on top of. And then you can jump on that platform, but you're also tethered to the platform, so you have to like pull the box back after you make the jump. So it's really neat. There was one power up where you become a ghost and you could go through certain things or make certain things appear, so you had to toggle back and forth between it. It's also a co-op platformer, so I was able to play it with my wife. But the main problem with it was a little jank, and the jank kind of killed it a little bit. So I also put this one as a 5 out of 10. I'm going to do ordering within the tiers. I think I like Kuko's more than I like Jak 2. Alright, Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope. This game, I didn't finish. It's one of 2 games on this list that I haven't finished yet. I have thoughts. Hey, what's up, Curtis? We're making our tier list. I have thoughts. I really, really liked Mario & Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Mario & Rabbids Kingdom Battle is... you go into an area, you find the next section, you have a battle, you have some overworld stuff, you move forward to the next section over and over. And that's the gameplay loop. And it lets it be a lot more structured, and all of the battles are very planned. Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope, they improved the battle system, and everything else suffered. The story suffered, the organization suffered, like, everything is... They made, like, a hub area, World 1 hub area, and you can kind of go and do whatever you want. And there's a bunch of side quests, and the side quests are very boring. There's like little battles that you can just run into an enemy and have to fight them. And they're not hard, they're just in the way. It's really annoying. What? Augie, stop. I don't know what he sees. So, like, again, the battles, phenomenal. When they have, like, a planned battle, or the boss fights, or whatever, the mechanics and the planning and the strategy, really good. Everything else sucked. I just didn't like that part. So, I'm going to go ahead and put that one in B tier. I think I'm going to put it above Pumpkin Prime. Give me just a second. Okay. I'm back. Should I switch up the music? You guys have a suggestion? Game of the year going to Vex for sure. We'll see. Alright, Moss. So Moss is a VR game. and the architect Ark brought over his PSVR, and we played it together. And I remember I was excited seeing the trailer for the game, and then they were like, "It's VR," and I was like, "No, why? Why does everything have to suck?" And it turns out it's probably the best VR series that I've played, which isn't saying a lot because I've played like 3 games, but I really liked Moss. So Moss is like you you exist in the world as the reader. You interact with objects by grabbing them, but then you also control the mouse on the screen, who is named Moss. No, that's not true. The mouse is named Quill, which is interesting. But then there's Moss is like the country or whatever. So you, as the reader, help Moss, the character, get through the book. Um, and it was really fun. The VR legitimately added to the design, and the narrative was interesting the whole time. It was pretty simple, but it was interesting. I was engaged the whole time. Uh, and like I said, it could not have been done without the VR. It wasn't super complex, but it was very Zelda-like in all of the best ways. There was stuff hidden all over, and it was well hinted, which is really big for me. I I hate when I have to look up where to find something in a game. I think that's a factor of bad game design. Um, the biggest issues with the game were that you only had like the sword to play with. There was very little things the mouse could do to interact, and the VR technology just isn't quite there yet to not cause me to get a headache. So VR holds it back a little bit in that regard. So overall, I put this one in A tier. Moss Book 2, the sequel, was uh it picks up where Moss ends because it ends on like a cliffhanger. So I was excited to get into Book 2. Book 2 upped everything. Everything was straight up better about Book 2. I really enjoyed it. I was very invested in the story. I loved all the puzzles. It added a lot more complexity to combat, and literally the only thing that I care to comment on to be improved is VR technology needs to improve in order for me to enjoy being able to play a game in VR better. So I'm gonna put that one in S tier. All right, we got Mr. Driller, Drill Land. Uh, I'm still taking suggestions for music, by the way. If anybody wants to update what we're listening to, Mr. Driller Drill Land is a decent puzzle game. It is broken into like 5 different sections where you get 5 different puzzle games. One of them is called Tower of Druaga, which we'll get back to, and it's the most important one. Okay, sounds good, Catch. We'll do it after we finish Mr. Drill Land, because then we'll be talking about Pikmin. So the other ones are, yep, you're drilling down, and sometimes you have to hit the right colors, sometimes you have to avoid things, sometimes you have to go fast, sometimes you have to be most efficient to get a high score. But it's all like the same basic thing. But then there's Tower of Druaga, which is like I don't know, like a roguelike version of the game. It's like a dungeon crawler roguelike thing, but also you're still doing the drill down because it's the drill game. Let me see if I can find a picture. Oh. This. So you're like drilling down, and you have to like find You have to keep up your HP because everything causes you damage. Like every drill you do causes you 1 damage. You fight this dragon dude. He does damage to you, and you have to get to the end and fight this boss. And you have to collect enough stuff to be able to hurt him to make it possible. Yo, what's up, Sai? Uh, and you see here, we're on level 1. Every world you had, or every game you had to do a level 1, and then once you did level 1, you could fight like the final boss. You get the credits, whatever. You beat the game. Then you unlock level 2 through 5 of every game. Level 2 was so hard that I never beat it. I tried for hours. I don't understand how this game is supposed to be operable, but I did like it. It was cool. But overall, I think I want to put it in B tier because it did not make sense to be possible after level 1. Maybe possible for level 2, but if it got any harder, I don't think I could handle it. Alright, let me find some Pikmin music. We'll switch it up. We're doing Pikmin 4 music. Sai, you haven't missed too much. We've gone through these games: DK64 Randomizer, Moss Book 2, Moss, Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope, which is one of the 2 I haven't beaten yet, Ape Escape Pumped and Primed, Mr. Driller Drill Land, Kuko's Lost Pets, Jak 2, and Frogger for PS1. Yeah, for sure, Neo. That's definitely what happened. Pikmin 3 Deluxe. We actually had this game on our list in 2021 because I played it then too. I played it on stream. More recently, I played it in co-op with my wife, and as usual, I loved it. What a good game. Super happy that I played through it again, and this time I actually did an all badges playthrough. There's a badge for getting all the murals. You have to take pictures of murals, and they're like really hard to find. I had to Google those, so I was upset about that. But the mission mode, which I hadn't really played before, I really liked. I really enjoyed the mission mode, and I enjoyed that it was a co-op experience that I could play with my wife, and it was really fun. I just all around had a great time, and just like before, I think I might have put it in A tier before, but now it's an S. Pikmin 3 is my favorite Pikmin game. I think I liked Moss more for it being my first playthrough of Moss 2 and not my first playthrough of Pikmin 3. So for this year's tier list, I think I would put Moss Book 2 over Pikmin 3. Why? Oh, it's the same video. Never mind. We're still on the same song. I thought it went back. Pikmin 4. This game came out this year. Pikmin 4 is probably my favorite game that came out this year. That I was excited to really get into as soon as it came out. I do have some problems with it. I think my biggest issues were the first 2 areas were very similar, and they had very little going for them. They were very, I don't know, they were just mundane. And while being mundane, it was, hey, all of the characters around you are talking about how impressive you are. It's like, oh, you're so good. I can't believe this is your first mission. And oh, wow, I wonder where Olimar is. And it's very clear where Olimar is. So, like, I had this problem too with the first Scarlet and Violet DLC, where you, the player, just know everything that's happening already, but the characters still discuss it, and they discuss it ad nauseum, right? So that was my least favorite thing about the game. Also, like loading screens, it was be in level, finish level, loading screen. Have to go back to the main area, loading screen. Talk to the guy, which takes forever. Then cutscene. Then you talk to the guy to go back to a level, and then you have a loading screen. So it was just like a long period in between being able to actually play the game, which I didn't like that too much. But overall, I really enjoyed Pikmin 4. I think um, they I like that they brought in like the mission mode slash bingo battle modes into the main game. I liked the variety of creatures a lot. I really enjoyed the Dandori missions and trying to get platinums on all of them. I liked that there was a lot of game to Pikmin 4 compared to the other Pikmin games, which are a lot shorter. Um, After the first two areas, all the areas felt unique and they felt like they were interesting to me. One other thing I didn't like is every obstacle was solved by Ochi being busted. I wish there was a little more depth to the fighting like there had been in every other Pikmin game. So, well, I guess Pikmin 2 had the purples being busted. So, Ochi just straight up ruins the balance of the game. It made every fight the same and kind of boring. But other than that, I liked Ochi as a you ride on the dude and you get to jump in this game and that kind of thing. So, overall, I really enjoyed Pikmin 4. Uh, I think it's going to be the bottom of S tier for me because it did have more problems than the other games in S tier. It might be the top of A tier. It's hard to say. Yeah, let's put it in the top of A tier for now. Because it did have the problems that it did have. I really didn't like. Okay, next up, Scooby Doo: Night of 100 Frights. So we played this as a. Oh, I guess I should mention. Ketchup mentioned the auto lock. I think I don't like auto lock. It got in the way a lot. Um, but it helped sometimes. It helped us target switch more. So I don't know. I don't. I could take it or leave it. I think it didn't do anything for me. Oh, you've heard of Scooby Doo's Night of 100 Frights? So the mechanics are super simple for a platformer, and it's a little clunky because Scooby is big, and there aren't very many rooms with interesting design or power ups that are interesting. But it's more interesting than the surface level platforming because it was a 3D platformer Metroidvania, which is not something that I've seen very often at all. Um, if it had like a better feel and better power ups and better levels, I think this game could have been like a huge hit just off of the Metroidvania type design. Because it was like, oh, we go over here, we get these boots, and now we can go back to this area and progress somewhere else. And then that gets us something. We go back over here, and you have to go back and forth, and you have to remember what you found and what you had to go. Oh, I wish I could go over there. And the game does help you out a little bit with it, and there's a lot of pathing to go down. So, uh, also, even more importantly, the voice cast, especially Don Knotts, carried hard. Shoutouts to Don Knotts being a voice actor of the Gardener. uh, and finally, the inclusion of a laugh track that just played when you took damage and stuff, it made me laugh so much. It never got old. So, overall, I'm going to put this one in B tier. I think it's probably a little worse than Mario and Rabbids. Smooshy! Smooshy Come Home was a really fun game. I enjoyed that game. It was a lot of world building. The characters were fun. The gameplay was simple and enjoyable. It didn't have a ton of depth, which could have made it better, but that's my only minor issue. So the game was pretty short, and I always have a thing with indie games where it's, oh, did this break or am I doing something wrong? Yeah, Smushi is the mushroom game where you fly around on the leaf, like shown in this image here, which you can probably barely see. Um, it's it was very fun. I think it could have used a little more, but I don't like some of it felt a little samey. For instance, the environment had you'd find like random crap on the ground sometimes. Like a lighter would be in the dirt. However, there were very few of the different items, but a lot of the items. So you would see lighters everywhere. You would see, I don't know, rocks are fine to be everywhere, but there were a lot of rocks everywhere. There's very few, like, additional things that were building up the world. So, and that's what happens. It's an indie game made by one guy. That happens. I understand. But it does hinder the experience a little bit. But the gameplay itself was really fun, so I'm going to put it in A tier, right below Moss. Sonic Adventure DX. I wrote a novel on this one in my notes. I'm going to read it to you. The game runs into the classic problems of every 3D Sonic as well as some other ones along the way. The main story of Sonic has the normal issues of the core character design of go fast, lacks depth, and causes unreactable situations consistently, as well as it feels bad when something does stop you. It does have a unique vibe, I agree, Sai. All across the game, there's the issue of you suddenly stop playing a level for 30 plus seconds, because you hit the cutscene spring, or the cutscene wind, or the cutscene boost pad. And if you touch the control stick, it may just cause the game to stop working. The actual cutscenes also had poor pacing and felt very slow, which was not terrible until you had to watch them again on subsequent story plays. Because in Sonic Adventure DX, for anybody that doesn't know, you play the Sonic story, then you play Tails' story, then you play Knuckles' story, then you play Amy's story, and Gamma's story, and Big's story. So there's several cutscenes that are repeating, but you couldn't skip them because sometimes they had an additional little bit at the end, or they were slightly different. Um, of all the of the other stories, Tails and Knuckles uh, are fine with the same normal issues, but Amy and Gamma were particularly slow or felt like you didn't have much to do. Big Story is obviously the most fun. Which I actually, that's not a meme. I enjoyed Big Story more than any of the other stories. Oh, hi. Thanks for the resub.
Quilly love, Quilly love, Quilly love, Quilly love.
And as usual, the game ending with a supersonic boss is boring because the core design has nothing interesting about it. Froggy. Me and Ark were doing that the whole time. I played Sonic Adventure DX with Ark. That's how I get through most Sonic games, is playing them with somebody. Because if I don't play them with somebody and get to poke fun at things or make jokes the whole time, it's hard for me to continue playing them. One thing I didn't mention in my review thing is it has a lot of I guess the way that the camera moves was bad enough to cause me motion sickness, and I don't get motion sickness very often. So, um, overall, D tier game, but I at least understand a little bit better about how people would like that one because it didn't have as big of issues of the pacing of the levels as much as some of the other Sonic games I've played. There might be ketchup. I did not mess with the Chow Garden. I had no interest in messing around with that. but I've heard that it's the best part of Sonic Adventure DX and Sonic Adventure 2, uh, which I don't like because I feel like the main part of the game should be the main appeal of the game. But yeah, I've heard that it's good stuff. I just didn't feel interested because I didn't like the main game. Um, Next up, Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage from the Reignited trilogy. That game was really good. It was as expected because I liked that game already. It's an excellent sequel to the first game. I had a few qualms. Biggest negative I can say is that some of the missions felt a bit too annoying when it could have been more platforming focused. They were like mini game focused, where you just had to do something dumb to get them. Um, like I'm not talking about like the skateboard missions either. I'm talking about like, oh, sit here and flame this turtle because it's trying to go the wrong way over and over. And I think a platforming challenge would have been better in a lot of the situations that they were in. Um, where'd my notes go? There it is. But otherwise, I had a really good time playing it, and the Reignited trilogy kept the magic. Um, I'm gonna put it in S tier because I really enjoyed it, and we'll move on to Spyro: A Hero's Tale. Spyro: A Hero's Tale, I really liked. It felt like something Insomniac would have done moving on from Spyro 3 if they didn't sell it off, sell the IP off. I liked that the game was a lot more open. It plays really well, has a lot of fun levels. Uh, I wrote that my main issues were that it occasionally leaned into 3D platformer tropes too hard. I don't remember 100% about what that meant when I wrote it, but I'm sure it's like um, just things that you see all the time. It wasn't like unique. And the levels got a little too samey, and the early bosses were kind of bad. Oh, and I wrote that the Sparks and Blink missions were boring slash not fun. So overall, it was a good game. I enjoyed like the Sergeant Bird missions. I enjoyed the Spyro stuff. Um, Hunter was cool. Um, but yeah, I think I'm gonna put this one in A tier. I think I'm gonna put it below Smooshy, and yeah, we'll just roll with that. Suika game. I have notes on this one because I wrote notes on everything except for the games I haven't beaten and Mario Bros. Wonder because I haven't written it up yet because I just finished that 100% yesterday. Um, Suika game. My only note is 20fruity8 LOL. Shoutouts to Neo for telling me 20fruity8 because I love that. Um, I can't give this game too high of a score because it's not. It lacks depth entirely. It feels pretty random whether or not you can succeed in it or not. There is strategy for sure, but it's pretty random whether you get the right pieces to succeed and whether the physics behaves in the way that you want it to. Yeah, exactly, Sai. And for that reason, I'm going to put it in C tier. Because I don't dislike playing it like I did with Frogger or Sonic Adventure, or even Jak 2 for a lot of Jak 2. Um, but I also just don't care. Like if somebody offered me $10 to never play Suika again, I'd be completely fine with that. All right, Mario 64. I'm sure everybody's waiting on my opinions on this one because of how much I complain about Mario 64. Uh, so my opinion of Mario 64. SM64. I've never heard that. Why have I never thought of that? That's wonderful. I love it. Uh, so for stream, I did a 70-star run of this game. I was going to do a 16-star run when it got picked, but I put a platformer pick out there where you could pay 5,000 extra channel points, and I would turn it into a 70-star run. And that got picked by Kitsune, and Kitsune was like, "You gotta play this and enjoy it." So I did a 70-star run because I was not about to do a 120-star run. 120-star runs is what made me dislike the game to begin with. The game is pretty punishing for small mistakes. I don't like that I ran into a wall and I bonked and I fell down a flight of stairs and it took me 10 minutes to get back up. I don't like wall jumping in the game. I think it doesn't feel quite right. Everything about Mario 64's movement doesn't feel quite right. Like, I don't like that I can't choose when I kick or dive in the air. It just seemed... I know that you can, but I shouldn't have to play for 100 hours to understand the movement to that core level where I could be able to do that. Yeah, SMS does have really good movement. Mario Odyssey has my favorite Mario movement out of any Mario game, for sure. I do love the levels in Mario 64, by the way. I think that's a huge high note, is I really like the level design in that game. I think something that they learned from Mario 64 that they've applied to every Mario game since is air control. SMS Sunshine has like the biggest air control where you just get to use the FLUDD to have control in the air more. Mario Galaxy has the spin move. Mario Odyssey has the cap. But you don't have that way to control your movement in the air. And with it already being clunky to jump around, you needed a little bit of something to be able to move in the game better. But if you ignore the most difficult and longest stars, the punishments aren't usually so bad that you lose significant progress. So if you ignore things like Rainbow Ride 100 coin, and you just do a 70-star run, and you just get to skip things that you don't want to do, the game becomes a lot more fun. It's a lot more fun to play the game in a way that's not 100%. Which I don't like because I like 100% in games, but I appreciated this playthrough of the game because of that. And for that reason, it's moved up to the top of B tier. So, that's as good as Mario 64 is going to get for me. Next up, we got Mario Wonder. Mario Wonder, I just finished 100%ing. I got all the medals and stuff. And I played it in co-op with my wife, except for the very last Ultra Challenge level. And I really liked it. I think Mario Wonder was a really fun game. I think it does have some problems. The biggest issue that I found with it is that it's choppy. Every level is like a minute long, or less. Or maybe 2 minutes. Regardless, every level is short. And because you have a loading screen back and forth between every level, it feels broken up. And then you have on top of that the levels that are supposed to be super short, like the little platform challenges with the badges or whatever. And with those being super duper short, it feels even choppier. So it feels like they supplemented good long levels with short little bursts of interesting levels. The loading zones aren't that long, but I say not that long. It's like probably 15-20 seconds between every load. But because there's so many, it doesn't feel quite right. Maybe even 10 seconds. But it's not like PS5 loading, where it's 2 to 3 seconds. If it was 2 to 3 seconds, I probably would have enjoyed it more. I think it just gets a little choppy because of, hardware. Yeah, legitimately like 45-second level, 15-second load. Pick another level, 15-second load. Now you have a minute and a half long level or whatever. I do think that the Wonder Seeds or the Wonder Flowers were really interesting. They came up with a lot of unique mechanics that you got to experience throughout the game. It does the thing that Yoshi's Woolly World does that I rave on a lot, where you don't need a text box to tell you how to play the game. It just works. You have an intuitive knowledge of how to use whatever the game throws at you, and I really like that. Uh, so I think that really boosts up the game. Um, but I do wish that the levels were a little bit longer on their own, and I think that's something that was lacking compared to like New Super Mario Bros. U, where those levels felt a little bit longer. Um, yeah, outside of that, the very last level, the Super Challenge level, um, I thought it was going to be harder than it was. Everybody was complaining about it, but it really wasn't that bad. It had one section that was like real difficult, and then the rest were like fine. However, don't play it in co-op because it will drain your lives. You will lose 2 or more lives per attempt, and if you game over, you have to start the level over again, and you have to get more one-ups because you're not going to beat it in 5 lives on your first try. Um, it has the thing where you have to hit the top of the flagpole to get like a little icon on the screen, and I missed the top of the flagpole in my first try, so I had to replay the level, and the replay of the level only took me 8 minutes. So it's one of those things where once you get it, it kind of just works, kind of like an NES game, where once you understand how to play it, it just kind of works. So overall, Mario Wonder, I enjoyed it a lot. I think I'm going to put it right below Pikmin 4. Um, Mario Odyssey is one of my favorite games of all time, and I'm glad that I got to do a replay of it. I'm also glad that I didn't do 100% playthrough again. I just did Darker Side. Um, there's only a couple problems with Mario Odyssey. Oh yeah, absolutely, RDV. I fully agree. Yeah, that those were really like just in the way and annoying. Um, so you have volleyball, you have motion controls required to access particular things, like different actions that the captures have, or the homing attack, whatever. And coin grinding for 100% kind of sucks in Mario Odyssey, but none of those things are super relevant. Like, you don't have to grind that many coins to get the max moons and get everything that's like in the game, except costumes. So, uh, I always love Mario Odyssey because every single level feels like fun, and you get rewards no matter where you go. The tools in the game that help you get 100% are also really nice. Did we run out of songs? We ran out of songs. Um, I would put Tears of the Kingdom music on, but there's not any. What music are we going with? I can't do this. I've never played Billy Hatcher. I'm not doing it. It's not on the list at all. Not even close. I'm putting Sonic Adventure DX soundtrack on. Okay. So Mario Odyssey, like I was saying, wonderful game. I love all the stuff. Um, learning speed tech for this game, like just watching speedrun stuff, makes it really fun to stomp through the game again. And I love Mario Odyssey overall. So it's going in S tier. I'm not organizing S tier, by the way, or D tier, because they will be argued for the anti game of the year and the game of the year. Sonic is a little bit louder than Pikmin. I gotta turn it down. Alright, Game Boy Tetris. I played this on the Switch Online. And I was excited at the time that I could play it with friends, and then I never ended up playing with friends. I did get the big rockets for A-Type and B-Type. I've played a lot of NES Tetris, so I get the idea of how to stack in Tetris, so that wasn't very difficult for me. But I do think Game Boy Tetris is a little worse. It feels like a lot harder to move pieces, and it feels small, like you're more enclosed. So, overall, it's still Tetris. I still really enjoy it, but I'm going to put it at the end of A tier. Sigh. I'm trying to collect myself here. I don't have any notes. I'm still playing Tears of the Kingdom. I haven't beaten it yet. I've gotten through the 4 regional phenomenon. Tears of the Kingdom has some of the best stuff that I've ever seen in any video game ever. I love Ultra Hand. I think it's an extremely unique mechanic, and I think being able to solve puzzles in unintended or unexpected ways and really just put your creative mind at work to be able to do it is extremely good. I love that. I love being able to just go out and explore and find a way to get to anything that I want to do. I think that the dungeons and the fact that you have to find a lead up to the dungeon and then go through usually some sort of exploration type challenge more than a combat challenge, or more than a puzzle challenge too. I love that. I think it's so good. And the dungeons themselves are really nice too. I think the story is improved a lot from Breath of the Wild. As much as I've played of the story, I've gotten all of the Dragon's Tears, so I have the Master Sword, so I don't want to spoil too much there. But I do know like a bunch of things that are happening in that zone. However, I hate everything else. All of your abilities, trash, except for Ultra Hand. They're at best fine. Like the time stop or the time reverse, it's fine. The Ascend, I forget it exists. Fuse is just a way to ignore the problem of you don't get cool stuff in the game. The wheel of picking your ability, auto build, map, camera, and amiibo should not be there. Those should be what the 4 dudes go into those slots, so you can use their abilities. Because otherwise, they get in the way. You know how many times I've tried to pick up an item and pick up a bunch of items, so I mash A and then blow them away because I picked the Gust ability by accident? Because he was just standing there? You know how many times I've gone out to explore in the world and found absolutely nothing interesting whatsoever because exploring is extremely useless? I hate the shrines. The shrines are so just obnoxious. You go find one, you do it, you get the same reward every time. And then they obsolete all the side quests that exist outside of the shrines. Like, you're just in the world. What needs to happen, in my opinion, is eliminate all the shrines, make all of the puzzles from the shrines be what's in the regular world, and it lowers the content of the game and makes everything that you do actually more interesting because they're better rewards. How many times have I completed a side quest and it's like, wow, thanks for spending that 2 hours. Here's a red rupee. And I'm like, come on, man. I really thought this one was going to be interesting. I went into the depths and I was like, oh, what's his face? The little kid at the lookout landing was like, hey, there's some statues in the southwest. Or southwest. Go follow those statues and you might find something cool. So I go follow it. And I follow it for an hour and a half just to fight Koga. And after I fought Koga, I got an auto build tablet. Yay! It's frustrating. Because there's so many good things. There's so many cool things. And I see you said Fuse makes weapons much more interesting. It doesn't change the combat. It just it makes it more incentivized to fight enemies. But once you have good materials, there's no point of fighting enemies again. There's just no reward. Again, the same issue that Breath of the Wild had, where you complete something and there's not a good reward for it. Ever. I will say that there's more reward to fighting the boss creatures. Like your Taluses, you get the hearts for to fuse to your weapon to increase their power by quite a bit. The Hinoxes, you can get their items that they drop, all that kind of thing. But the highs of Tears of the Kingdom are so high that I still like the game. I don't know, man. It's such a weird place for a game to be because it makes me so angry and so happy at the same time. I do have a couple other major qualms that I just got really mad at. The number one being the path to the water temple. First of all, if you played Breath of the Wild, you would have expected to get the Zora tunic so that you could swim up the waterfall to access the Great Fish. That is not what you do. You have to happen upon the air balloon to get up there. If you... and then you finally get up there, and it's like, oh, I have to stand in the right spot and happen to see this tear shape? Because that didn't seem like what I was looking for. It took me so long, I almost Googled it and gave up forever after reading what it was. See, as a big completionist guy, completing things only feels fun when I actually get something for it. That's not a puzzle, Sai. There is nothing that really hints you to get that. It was awful. The rest of the game has good hints for puzzling, except for a couple spots, which when you get stuck on them, feels terrible. Because you solve the puzzle and you're like, it was that stupid? I can't believe they put this in a game. That was trash. I was so angry. And Neo, I like completing things to get things. At least get a good check mark on the screen. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom doesn't give me a good check mark. It doesn't give me a collectible item that I'm like, ooh, I got a new one. It doesn't give me stuff to go do. And even if it did give me oh, here's 1,000 rupees for completing the side quest, what do I buy with it? There's nothing good in the game. There's nothing there. It's just barren except for the parts that are main story. And it makes me so mad. So overall, the main story carries it so hard, and Ultra Hand is such a good ability that I'm still putting it right below Mario Wonder. I don't know, Sai. To me, the dungeon feels like all of the lead up to the dungeon as well. That's part of it. Like once you accept the quest to get to the dungeon, all of that is part of the dungeon. Curtis Curtis already knows what's happening here. All right, we're going to talk about Tears of the Kingdom a little bit more still. It does make sense. I really liked the water temple once you got into it, into the main area. I really liked like the anti-gravity stuff about it. I thought that was cool. I thought the puzzles within the actual water temple were cool. I can't. I'm done. I gotta move on. Vex. We did not start the year off great. Vex was the first game that we played for the 3D platformer list for the year, and it was the first game I played for the year that wasn't like Chameleon Twist or another speedrun. Um, Vex is Mario 64 for the PS2/Xbox. It adds a completely unnecessary element of dark story to it. It's like, oh, the Dark Lord has come and taken the souls of all of the people. You are the only one that can save the world. And it's like super dark and super like murderous and not like, oh, this guy's evil. It's like, yeah, this dude killed everyone and took them and put them into the dark realm and everything is awful. But then it's like, hey, boy with claws, go save world. And then you go play the game for hours and there's nothing. There's one cutscene in the middle where it follows up on any of that, and then it follows it up at the end. So it just didn't need to be there. Whatever. Um, the movement and level design of Vex were just like Mario 64, except worse. Worlds 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7 I wrote as pretty good. World 4 was okay. 5, 8, and 9 were bad. Um, the game for me was going to be a 5 out of 10, which would put it in the B tier area. But then we fought the final boss. And it's not like the final boss was an optional boss or something. Like, if I fight something extremely difficult that's an optional fight, that's on me. If I can't do it, whatever. Even if it is a little crappy. Like Terra Nort in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. I understand that I just needed to get better in order to beat that. And it wasn't required whatsoever to beat that. So then, we fought Vex's final boss, and Viv, who requested the game, looked up a guide to how to beat it. And I was already doing what the guide said to do. I think this might be DMCA. Oh no, this is just the title screen. I'm just giving it anyways, it's only 15 seconds. Alright. But it was so frustratingly hard, and I was so legitimately angry at just the final boss that I'm putting this game in D tier. That it was so I'm mad thinking about it. That final boss took me hours. And it's not like it's a good game. It's not like it felt fair. Like when you play Dark Souls. Dark Souls is like, "Oh wow, I got destroyed, but at least I know that it's supposed to be that way and I can adjust and come up with a new idea, a new strategy, roll out of the way, be more patient." There's a lot of depth to the combat. Vex is like, oh, this game barely works, and also I have to do this thing that's extremely difficult. So anyways, that's all the games that I played this year. So now we gotta pick our Game of the Year and Anti-Game of the Year. Anti-Game of the Year had some competition. Between Frogger, Sonic Adventure DX, and Vex. All of those games made me angry. The game that made me the least angry was Sonic Adventure DX. move. So it is definitely between Frogger and Vex for the anti-game of the year. Frogger, I know you guys didn't see, and to repeat what I said earlier about it, it's just so cycle-based, and it doesn't line up, and you have a life system, and you have to restart, which is just a menu, and the levels are designed poorly, and you can't see anything. It's a rough game. But I think Vex takes the cake. I think that final boss was so bad and so annoying that Vex is my least favorite game that I played this year. So we really started 2023 off horribly. And I have a real bad feeling about 2024 starting with Sonic Unleashed. So we'll see how that goes next year when I do this. And then for the game of the year. Just do it. Run that Mario Odyssey one more time. So, Mario Odyssey, I can't reasonably put it as game of the year because I've played it before, and I just don't feel like I can put a game that I've played before as game of the year. So it's just at the top of S tier. Pikmin 3 Deluxe kind of in the same boat, though I did play it a lot differently this time, doing the mission modes and doing the co-op stuff and that kind of thing. However, I like Mario Odyssey more than Pikmin 3 Deluxe anyways. Spyro 2, I enjoy, but I think there's some major flaws to it that have prevented me from putting as game of the year, and I do think it's worse than Pikmin 3 Deluxe. So we got DK64 Randomizer and Moss Book 2. Moss Book 2 was really fun. I really enjoyed it. And it's definitely above Spyro for me. But the VR headset and how it gave me headaches and how I couldn't like sit there and play it for a long time at a given sitting definitely hindered my experience, leaving the fan game, the ROM hack of Donkey Kong 64, the randomizer with unlimited playability and so many quality of life features and so many modes to be my game of the year. I've enjoyed watching so much DK64 Rando. I've enjoyed doing several seeds of DK64 Rando. It just has so much variety and so many chances to replay it, and it's brought new life to DK for me, because for a while I was a little salty about DK64. The speedrun was how I was getting like a lot of my entertainment about DK64, and all the speedrun tricks are really cool. However, once they found phase walking, the speedrun became phase walking simulator, and that was really boring to watch and extremely difficult to do, so it became a lot less fun to do. Whereas before, you had to find fun ways through stuff. You had to swim through walls, you had to get skew, you had to moon kick, you had to do things like that. So it lost a lot of its luster for me. The stocks went down. But then DK64 Randomizer comes out, and we play that glitchless, or at least mostly glitchless. Woolly World, along with Chameleon Twist and Super Sammy Roll, aren't on the list because those are games that I've already played, and I was just speedrunning them this year. This is much more about playing it in a just for fun manner. And there may be a case, there wasn't this year, but if I've played it for the sake of playing it casually and just for fun, and then I've speed ran it within the same year, it would still be on the list. But I didn't have any of those this year. But yeah, DK64 Randomizer, game of the year. Where's the DK rap? We're playing the DK rap.
Here we go. Finally here. Performance for you. If you know the words, you can join in too. Put your hands together if you wanna clap as we take you through this funky rap. He's the leader of the bunch. You know him well. He's finally back to kick some tail. His coconut gun can fire in spurts. If he shoots ya, it's gonna hurt. He's bigger, faster, and stronger too. He's the first member of the DK crew. He's a hard-scotch style, so listen up to. She can shrink inside to suit her mood. She's quick and nimble when she needs to be. She can go through the air and climb up trees. If you choose her, you'll not choose wrong. With a skip and a hop, she's one cool farm. He has no style, he has no grace. This car has a funny face. He can handstand when he needs to and stretch his arms out just for you. Inflate himself just like a balloon. This crazy car just digs his tune. He's back again and about time too. And this time he's in the mood. He can fly real high with his jet back on, with his pistols out. He's one tough call. He'll make you smile when places do. But gremlins beware, 'cause he's finally, he's here for you. It's the last member of the DK crew. This song's so strong, it isn't funny. Can make a gremlin cry out for money. Can pick up a boulder with relative ease. Makes crushing rocks seem such a breeze. He may move slow, he can't jump high, but this car,
Heck of a guy. I got it. Don't worry, I fixed it. Walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smell, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Ah, yeah.
Walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smell, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut.
All right. So that is our tier list. I'm happy with it. No, not 20,234. 2023. Download our image, save. If you guys have your own opinions on the games that I played this year, you can feel free to make your own tier list. Jeez. Sorry. So I guess I want to bring up a little bit of what's happening as we go into 2024. Right now, my plan is I want to try to push Yoshi World Record more though I'm struggling with it. I feel like I can never play World 3 and 4 as well as I did. Yo, game time. This is Game Boy Tetris specifically. In 2022, did I have Tetris on there? No, it was 2021. Oops. I could have sworn. Oh, I put it in B tier before. Never mind. Heck. I think I was just mad when I put it in B tier. Okay, anyways. Yoshi. That's our first thing on the agenda. After that, we have 3 games in the queue for the 3D platformers. We got Sonic Unleashed, The Hobbit, and Mario Galaxy 2. Once we start doing Pick a Platformer again, I'm going to reopen the Channel Point Redemption, and I think I'm going to run a sale. So there will be cheaper 3D platformer redemptions, because I'm kind of sad that I only played 23 games this year. If you look at, like, here's my 2021 tier list. Look how many more games there are on this list. And I kind of want to go back to playing a lot more games. So I want to get in as many 3D platforms as I can next year. Because I think that's really fun. I really enjoy doing that. I like playing new games and having new experiences live on stream. And I appreciate you guys enjoying them too. So I think that would be next. After that, I want to get back to Chameleon Twist. I want to get it sub 10 because it's free now. So I'm really happy with where we're at with the stream right now. I wish I could stream a little bit more. That's the only thing I wish I could do more of.